The Awakening. The observation deck of the Valdran Imperial Command Station offered an unobstructed view of the small blue planet spinning peacefully in the darkness. Supreme Commander Thexvol stood before the massive viewport, his forearms clasped behind his elongated back, studying the world that would soon belong to the Valdran Empire. His scaled skin reflected the soft glow of instrument panels, and his triple-eyed gaze never wavered from the target below. For 18 cycles, Valdran scouts had monitored this primitive world from the shadows. They had intercepted countless transmissions, analyzed hundreds of languages, and documented the strange bipedal creatures who called themselves humans. The data was conclusive and troubling in its implications. These humans were fractured, fighting endless wars over resources, beliefs, and invisible borders drawn on their planet's surface. They possessed crude nuclear weapons but had barely ventured beyond their own moon. Their technology lagged behind Valdran capabilities by at least 4 centuries. Commander Thexvol had conquered 47 worlds during his military career. Some had surrendered immediately upon seeing the Valdran Armada materialize in their skies. Others had resisted with whatever primitive weapons they possessed, only to be crushed within days. This human world would be no different, or so the projections indicated. The Valdran Strategic Council had already approved the invasion, citing the planet's abundant water, perfect atmospheric composition, and strategic location near 3 mineral-rich star systems. Tactical Officer Genra approached from the command center, her movements precise and military. She carried a data tablet displaying the final invasion assessments. Commander, the fleet is assembled and ready. 2,000 warships await your command. Ground forces number 800,000 troops, all equipped with plasma weaponry and shield technology. Our intelligence indicates the humans have no defense against either. Thexvol turned from the viewport, his expression unreadable. Have we received any response to our observation probes? Do they know we are here? Genra's mandibles clicked in what passed for a Valdran smile. They detected some anomalies 3 cycles ago, but their primitive scanning technology cannot identify our ships through our cloaking fields. They are blind, Commander. They suspect nothing. By the time they understand what is happening, the invasion will be complete. The commander moved to the tactical display, where a holographic representation of Earth rotated slowly. Red markers indicated primary targets, military installations, population centers, and communication hubs. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Simultaneous strikes across all major continents would cripple human command structures within the first hour. Electromagnetic pulses would disable their electronic infrastructure. With their military and communications destroyed, the human population would have no choice but to surrender, or face systematic elimination. Initiate the invasion sequence, Thexvol commanded. Deploy the fleet in standard subjugation formation. I want overwhelming force visible in their skies. Let them see the futility of resistance. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains in North America, the Situation Room of the Global Defense Initiative hummed with controlled chaos. Director Sarah Chen stood at the center of a circular chamber, surrounded by holographic displays showing real-time data from every corner of the planet. Her team of analysts, military strategists, and scientists worked at stations arranged in concentric circles, each focused on different aspects of Earth's defense. Chen had spent the last 18 months preparing for this moment. When the first anomalous readings appeared in deep space, most governments had dismissed them as equipment malfunctions. Chen knew better. She had assembled a team of the world's brightest minds and convinced them to work in absolute secrecy. The Global Defense Initiative was born from that paranoia, funded by black budgets and operated in facilities that officially did not exist. Director, we have confirmed slipspace signatures, called out Dr. Marcus Webb from the astrophysics station. 2,000 distinct contacts. They are dropping out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of our solar system. Estimated arrival at Earth orbit in 16 hours. Chen's expression remained calm despite the weight of confirmation. She had hoped the preparations would prove unnecessary, that the readings were indeed false alarms. But humanity's luck had run out. Activate Protocol Nightfall. Contact all cell leaders. It is time. Around the world, dormant networks sparked to life. In Tokyo, a geneticist received an encrypted message and immediately abandoned her laboratory, heading for an underground facility that had been prepared years in advance. In Berlin, a weapons engineer unlocked a vault containing research that violated every international treaty ever written. In Mumbai, a cybersecurity expert activated malware that had been quietly installed in every major computer system on the planet, waiting for this moment. Humanity had not been idle during those 18 months of observation. While the Valdrin watched and collected data, Earth's greatest minds had been working on something the aliens could never have anticipated. Humanity did not prepare to fight the way civilized species fought. They prepared to fight the way humans had always fought when facing extinction. Without rules, without mercy, and without limits, the Valdrin fleet emerged into Earth's orbital space with overwhelming presence. 2,000 warships, each larger than Earth's biggest aircraft carriers, filled the sky with their metallic forms. The ships were works of art, sleek and deadly, their hulls adorned with the symbols of the Valdrin Empire's countless conquests. They arranged themselves in precise military formation, creating a dome of ships that encircled the planet. Commander Thexfall watched from his flagship as the humans scrambled below. Their satellites stopped functioning as electromagnetic pulses washed over them. Their military bases went dark. Their communication networks collapsed. Within minutes, Earth was isolated, blind, and seemingly helpless. Broadcast the surrender demand, Thexfall ordered. Let them understand their situation. The message went out on every frequency, translated into every major human language. Humans of Earth, you are now subjects of the Valdrin Empire. Your primitive civilization has been evaluated and found lacking. Surrender immediately, and your species will be preserved as a labor force. Resist and you will be eliminated. You have 6 of your hours to respond. For 5 hours and 58 minutes there was silence from Earth. No military response, no diplomatic communication, nothing. The Valdrin command staff grew confident. The humans were paralyzed by fear, incapable of mounting any defense. Victory was assured. Then, with 2 minutes remaining before the deadline, every screen on every Valdrin ship suddenly displayed the same image. A human woman with steel-gray eyes and a calm expression appeared. She sat in what looked like a command center, her hands folded on a desk before her. This is Director Sarah Chen of the Global Defense Initiative speaking on behalf of humanity. We received your ultimatum, Commander Thexfall. We have reviewed your terms. Our response is simple. No. Thexfall leaned forward in his command chair, intrigued despite himself. You speak boldly for someone whose world is surrounded by our fleet. You have no ships, no orbital defenses, no means of resistance. What do you hope to accomplish? Chen's expression never changed. Commander, you have studied us for 18 months. You have watched our wars, analyzed our weapons, and concluded we are primitive and divided. You are correct on both counts. But you made one critical error in your assessment. You assumed that because we fight each other, we do not know how to fight. She paused, and for the first time a slight smile crossed her face. For 10,000 years, humanity has practiced warfare. We have perfected every method of killing that exists. We have turned murder into an art form. We have created weapons that horrify even ourselves. And for the past 18 months, while you watched us, we have been preparing to show you exactly what humans are capable of when you threaten our survival. Thexfall made a dismissive gesture. Threats from a species that cannot even reach orbit? You amuse me, Director Chen. Perhaps we will keep you alive as entertainment. Chen's smile widened slightly. Commander, let me tell you what you failed to notice while you were watching us. You saw our divisions, but you did not see what happened in the shadows. Every nation on Earth, every government, every military force has been working together in secret. We have shared every technology, every weapon, every dirty trick we ever developed for killing each other. And we have spent 18 months focusing all of that knowledge on one single question. How do we kill Valdrin? She stood, and the camera pulled back to show the massive command center behind her, filled with thousands of personnel at work. You wanted to know if we would surrender, Commander. Here is your answer. The broadcast cut off. For a moment, there was silence on the Valdrin flagship. Then alarms began shrieking across every ship in the fleet simultaneously. Something was wrong with their systems. Multiple critical failures were being reported from engineering sections across the Armada. Commander, we have a situation, Genra reported, her voice tight with confusion. Our main power cores are fluctuating. Life support systems are experiencing cascading failures. Shields are dropping across the fleet. It is as if something is attacking our ships from the inside. That is exactly what is happening, came Chen's voice over the communication systems. You see, Commander, those 18 months you spent watching us, we spent that time getting inside your technology. Every probe you sent to study us, we captured. Every scout ship you thought was hidden, we found. And we introduced something into your systems, something very small, something you could not detect. Dr. Marcus Webb had called them nanophages when he first proposed the idea, microscopic machines smaller than viruses, designed to infiltrate Valdran technology through any interface with captured equipment. For 18 months, every time a Valdran probe approached Earth, it carried back more than just data. It carried an infection that spread silently through their fleet, dormant and waiting for activation. Now activated, the nanophages went to work with terrifying efficiency. They consumed power conduits, disrupted computer systems, and compromised structural integrity. They had been designed with one purpose: to turn the Valdran fleet's technological superiority into a weakness. Thexval stared at his failing systems in disbelief. This is not possible. You are primitives. You do not have nanotechnology of this sophistication. You are right, Chen's voice responded. We did not have it 18 months ago, but we learned very quickly. You taught us everything we needed to know when we reverse-engineered your probes. Thank you for the education, Commander. The first Valdran ship exploded as its power core went critical. Then another and another. Across the fleet, panic spread as crews realized their ships were dying around them. Some tried to evacuate in escape pods only to find those systems compromised as well. Others attempted to activate self-destruct sequences to prevent capture, but even those failed to respond. On Earth's surface, the real attack was just beginning. From hidden installations across the planet, thousands of missiles launched simultaneously. They were not sophisticated weapons by galactic standards. They were simple kinetic kill vehicles, essentially guided chunks of metal accelerated to tremendous velocities. Against energy shields, they would have been useless. Against ships whose shields were offline and whose defensive systems were compromised, they were devastatingly effective. The missiles, tracking the now visible Valdran ships through their own failing cloaking systems, struck home with brutal precision. Hulls designed to withstand energy weapons crumpled under simple kinetic impacts. Hundreds of ships were destroyed within minutes. Commander Thexval watched his fleet disintegrate around him. In 47 conquests, he had never encountered anything like this. The humans had not fought with honor, or followed any recognizable military doctrine. They had infected his fleet like a disease, then struck while his ships were helpless. It was barbaric, uncivilized, and brutally effective. All ships, emergency retreat, he commanded. Jump to slipspace immediately. We must regroup and reassess. But the nanophages had one more surprise. As Valdran ships attempted to activate their faster-than-light drives, the microscopic machines triggered one final cascade. Navigation systems provided false coordinates. Power regulators failed catastrophically. Of the 2,000 ships that had arrived at Earth, only 300 managed to successfully jump away. The rest were destroyed in the attempt or left drifting as powerless hulks in Earth's orbit. Director Chen watched the battle unfold on her displays. The victory was total and absolute. The Valdran invasion force, which should have crushed Earth within hours, had been decimated in less than 30 minutes of actual combat. But Chen's expression remained grim. She knew this was only the beginning. How many did we destroy? She asked. Webb checked his console. Confirmed kills on approximately 1,400 ships. 300 escaped. Another 300 are disabled but intact in orbit. Chen nodded slowly. Then they will be back. And next time they will be prepared for our tricks. How long until the second phase is ready? Webb glanced at his calculations. Project Exodus colony ships will be ready to launch in 6 months. Project Hive, the self-replicating drone swarm, will reach full operational capacity in 4 months. The Biological Warfare Division reports their Valdran-specific pathogens are ready for deployment now. Good, Chen said quietly, because when they come back we need to hit them with something even worse. They thought we were primitives. They thought we were easy prey. We need to show them the truth. We are not the victims in this story. We are the monsters they should have avoided. The 300 Valdran ships that escaped Earth's orbit emerged from slipspace in disarray. They had jumped blindly, their navigation systems compromised, and found themselves scattered across several light years. Slowly, they regrouped at a predetermined rally point, counting their losses and trying to understand what had happened. Commander Thexval's flagship was among the survivors, though barely. His crew worked frantically to purge the nanophages from their systems and restore basic functionality. The commander himself sat in his damaged command chair, staring at casualty reports that made no sense. 85% of his fleet destroyed in the first engagement with a supposedly primitive species. He began composing his report to the Valdran High Command, knowing it would likely end his career. But as he wrote, a darker thought occurred to him. Earth had been prepared. They had known the Valdran were coming. They had spent months planning this ambush, which meant humanity's so-called divisions were a facade. Behind the scenes, they were unified, focused, and far more dangerous than any projections had indicated. The worst part was the realization that Earth had not used anything that qualified as advanced technology by galactic standards. Nanomachines, kinetic weapons, cyber warfare, these were all well-known concepts. Earth had simply applied them with a ruthlessness and cunning that civilized species avoided. They had fought without honor, without rules, and without hesitation. As Thexval finalized his report, he included one final observation that would send ripples through the Valdran Empire and beyond. The humans did not fight like prey defending themselves. They fought like predators who had been disturbed while hunting. We may have just awakened something that the galaxy is not prepared to face. The Reckoning, the Valdran High Command convened within hours of receiving Commander Thexval's report. The circular chamber on their homeworld of Valdris Prime, filled with military leaders, each more distinguished and decorated than the last. Grand Marshal Krevthon, Supreme Commander of all Valdran forces, stood at the center of the assembly, his forearms spread wide in a gesture of disbelief as he reviewed the battle data. 1,400 ships destroyed. Krevthon's voice echoed through the chamber. 85% casualties against a species that has never fought beyond its own atmosphere. Someone explained to me how this is possible. The assembled commanders remained silent. No one wanted to be the first to admit the obvious truth. They had drastically underestimated humanity. The projections, the assessments, the careful observations, all of it had been worthless because they had failed to account for one critical factor. Humans did not think like other species. They did not fight like other species. And they certainly did not follow the unwritten rules that governed warfare among civilized galactic civilizations. Marshal, began strategic analyst Vexnor, a thin Valdran with extensive cybernetic enhancements. I have reviewed all available data from the engagement. The humans employed tactics that no honorable species would consider. They infiltrated our systems before the battle even began. They used our own technology against us. They struck at disabled vessels rather than accepting surrender. They ignored every convention of warfare. Krevthon's eyes narrowed. You say this as if it excuses our failure, analyst. The humans did exactly what any intelligent species would do when facing extinction. They used every advantage available to them. We are the ones who failed by assuming they would fight according to our expectations. The Marshal activated a holographic display showing Earth spinning in three-dimensional detail. This planet contains 4 billion humans, he continued. They have thousands of nuclear weapons. They have demonstrated advanced capabilities in nanotechnology, cyber warfare, and kinetic weapons deployment. Most concerning, they showed absolutely no hesitation in using any method available to them. The question before this council is simple. Do we attempt another invasion, or do we petition the Galactic Congress to classify Earth as a restricted world? We cannot show weakness, declared Fleet Commander Zorax, his scales bristling with aggression. If we retreat from one primitive world, every species in the Empire will question our authority. We must return with overwhelming force and crush these humans completely. Krevthon studied the younger commander carefully. And how many ships do you suggest we send, Commander Zorax? We lost 1,400 ships in the first engagement. Should we risk 5,000 ships? 10,000? How many Valdran lives are you willing to sacrifice? Before Zorax could respond, a priority transmission interrupted the council meeting. The communication came directly from Earth, bypassing all standard protocols and appearing simultaneously on every screen in the chamber. Director Chen's face filled the displays, and her expression held no trace of diplomacy or fear. Valdran High Command. This is Director Sarah Chen. I am transmitting this message to ensure we have complete clarity regarding the situation between our species. Your invasion fleet was destroyed 6 hours ago. We are currently in the process of salvaging your technology from the 1,700 ships you lost. We will reverse engineer everything we find, which will advance our capabilities by several centuries within a matter of months. She paused, letting that sink in before continuing. However, I'm not contacting you to gloat about our victory. I am contacting you to offer terms. You attempted to invade our world. You killed 3 million humans in your initial strikes. You declared us inferior and attempted to enslave our entire species. For these crimes, you owe humanity a debt that must be paid. Krevthon found himself speechless. A primitive species that had just fought off an invasion was now dictating terms to the Valdrin Empire. The audacity was unprecedented. Our terms are these, Chen continued. First, you will immediately transmit all data regarding other spacefaring species. We want to know who else is out there and which civilizations might pose a threat. Second, you will provide complete technical specifications for faster-than-light travel, advanced power generation, and defensive shielding. Third, you will declare a formal peace treaty with Earth and recognize our sovereignty over our solar system and any systems we choose to expand to in the future. The Valdrin commanders looked at each other in shock. These demands were impossible. Sharing technology with a primitive species violated every galactic convention. Recognizing their sovereignty gave them equal status to established empires. And the first demand, revealing information about other species, would destabilize the entire galactic political structure. And if we refuse? Krevthon asked, his voice cold. Chen's smile was not pleasant. Then we come to you. You see, Marshal, while you have been debating what to do about Earth, we have been busy. We captured 300 of your ships intact. We now have functional faster-than-light drives. Within 3 months, we will have replicated them. Within 6 months, we will have our own fleet capable of reaching Valdris Prime. She leaned forward, her eyes hard. But here is what should really concern you, Marshal. We do not need to match your numbers. We do not need technological parity. Because we fight dirty. We will send ships filled with bioweapons designed specifically for Valdrin biology. We will deploy nanophages that make what we used on your fleet look primitive. We will use tactics that no civilized species would consider. Because we do not care about fighting honorably. We care about winning. The chamber erupted in outrage. Commanders shouted over each other, some demanding immediate retaliation, others calling for negotiation. Krevthon raised all 4 arms for silence, his mind racing through possibilities and outcomes. Everything Chen said was plausible. If humanity could indeed reverse engineer Valdrin technology in months, they would become the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Not because of their technology, but because of their willingness to use any method to achieve victory. Director Chen, Krevthon said carefully, you speak of war crimes, of weapons that violate every galactic convention. Surely you understand that using such methods would make you pariahs among all civilized species. Chen's expression did not change. Marshal, we were already attacked without provocation, without warning, and without mercy. Your empire decided we were unworthy of existence. So yes, we are prepared to use methods that civilized species find distasteful. We are prepared to be the monsters you need us to be. The only question is whether you force us to prove it. The transmission ended, leaving the Valdrin High Command in stunned silence. Krevthon turned to his strategic analyst. Vexnor, what are the odds of a successful second invasion if we commit maximum resources? The analyst worked through calculations on his computer display for several moments before responding. Marshal, even with our full military might, the projections are unfavorable. The humans have proven they can adapt and weaponize technology at an unprecedented rate. They possess biological and chemical weapons we have never encountered. Most critically, they have demonstrated a complete disregard for conventional warfare ethics. If we invade again, we will win eventually through sheer numbers, but casualties would likely exceed 40% of our total forces. And that assumes they do not develop new weapons during the time it takes to assemble such a fleet. 40% casualties, Krevthon repeated quietly. To conquer one planet, the cost would cripple the Empire for generations. While the Valdrin debated their options, Earth was moving forward with terrifying efficiency. Director Chen had not exaggerated about humanity's progress. The captured Valdrin ships became treasure troves of technology, and teams of scientists worked around the clock to unlock their secrets. Within weeks, human engineers had successfully activated captured faster-than-light drives. Within 2 months, they had manufactured their first homegrown version. But technology was only one aspect of Earth's transformation. Dr. Rebecca Torres, head of the Biological Warfare Division, had been working on something that pushed the boundaries of ethics into territory humanity had never explored before. She called it the Extinction Protocol. Director Chen toured the secure facility deep beneath the Mojave Desert where Torres conducted her research. The laboratory was a maze of sterile white corridors and reinforced containment chambers. Torres herself was a small woman, with intense dark eyes who spoke about weaponized pathogens with the same enthusiasm most people reserved for discussing their hobbies. "Director, welcome to what I like to call humanity's insurance policy," Torres said, leading Chen into an observation room overlooking a sealed research chamber. "What you are about to see represents the culmination of every biological warfare program Earth has ever developed. Combined with alien biology, we extracted from Valdran genetic samples. In the chamber below, automated systems worked on substances that glowed faintly in their containment vessels." Chen felt a chill despite the warm air in the observation room. "What exactly am I looking at, Doctor?" "A species-specific biological weapon capable of targeting any form of life," Torres explained. "We started with the nanophages that proved so effective against Valdran ships. Then we enhanced them with self-replicating genetic material that can adapt to target specific DNA sequences. In theory, we could engineer a version of this weapon for every spacefaring species in the galaxy." Chen stared at the chamber below. "And the rate of spread?" "Exponential," Torres replied matter-of-factly. "A single infected individual could spread the pathogen to thousands within days, millions within weeks. The weapon would continue adapting and spreading until the target species was extinct, or until we deployed the kill switch that causes the pathogen to break down." The director was quiet for a long moment, contemplating the magnitude of what Torres had created. "If we deploy this, we become the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Every civilization will fear us. They will unite against us." Torres turned to face Chen directly. "Director, they already fear us. The Valdran attempted genocide against our species. They failed, and now they are debating whether to try again. The moment we ventured into space, we became part of a galactic community that sees us as inferior. This weapon ensures they can never act on that assessment. Fear is the only language predators understand, and we need to make absolutely certain that every species out there fears humanity more than they fear anything else." Chen nodded slowly, understanding the terrible logic. "Prepare it for deployment capability, but do not activate without my direct authorization. This weapon stays in reserve unless we have no other choice." But the galaxy's choice was already being made in chambers and councils across countless worlds. News of the Valdran defeat had spread rapidly, and reactions varied wildly among different species. The Galactic Congress, a loose confederation of 37 spacefaring civilizations, convened an emergency session to address the human situation. Representative Thalmora of the Syrian Union stood before the assembled delegates, her crystalline form refracting light across the chamber. "Esteemed representatives, we face an unprecedented situation. A primitive species has defeated one of our most powerful military forces, using methods that violate every convention we hold sacred. The question before this Congress is whether we recognize Earth as a sovereign world, or whether we classify them as a threat requiring containment." The delegate from the Krill Dominion, a massive insectoid creature, clicked its mandibles in agreement. "The humans have proven themselves to be dangerous and unpredictable. They employed biological weapons, cyber warfare, and kinetic bombardment. These are the tactics of barbarians, not civilized beings. I propose we form a coalition force to neutralize the threat before they can spread beyond their system." But other voices rose in opposition. The representative from the Luminary Collective, an energy-based species that existed primarily in containment fields, had a different perspective. "Perhaps we should consider why the humans fought with such desperation and creativity. The Valdran attacked them without provocation, without attempting communication or negotiation. The humans responded to an extinction-level threat with survival instincts. Many of our species would have done the same if faced with annihilation." As the debate raged, a new transmission arrived at the Galactic Congress. It came from Earth, and it was not from Director Chen. Instead, humanity had elected to send someone with a very different background, Dr. James Foster, a historian and philosopher who specialized in human conflict resolution. Foster appeared before the Galactic Congress via hologram, his elderly face calm and grandfatherly. His appearance was deliberately chosen to seem non-threatening, a stark contrast to Chen's military demeanor. Honored delegates, my name is Dr. James Foster. I speak for humanity today not as a warrior or strategist, but as someone who has spent his life studying why humans fight and how we make peace. He paused, gathering his thoughts before continuing. You debate whether humanity should be recognized or contained. You judge us based on how we defended ourselves against an unprovoked attack. I understand your concerns, truly I do. But let me offer you a different perspective. Foster activated a display showing images from human history, ancient battles, medieval warfare, colonial conflicts, and modern wars. For 10,000 years, humans have fought each other with escalating brutality. We have committed atrocities that shame us even now. But we have also learned something crucial through all that conflict. War should be a last resort. And when forced to fight, you fight to win and end the threat permanently. The hologram shifted to show peaceful scenes. Humans cooperating, building, creating, exploring. But we have also spent those 10,000 years learning to cooperate. Every major advancement in human civilization came from cooperation between former enemies. We have proven capable of moving beyond conflict when given the choice. Foster's expression grew more serious. The Valdren did not give us a choice. They observed us for months and decided we were inferior, violent, and worthy of extinction or enslavement. They were right about the violence, but wrong about the reason. We are violent because we have learned that sometimes violence is the only language aggressive species understand. We used every weapon at our disposal because the alternative was extinction. He spread his hands in a gesture of openness. So here is what I propose to this Congress. Recognize Earth as a sovereign world. Establish formal diplomatic relations with us. Give us the opportunity to prove we can be cooperative members of the galactic community. If we prove to be a threat, you can always form your coalition then. But give us the chance to show you that humanity is capable of more than just warfare. The Galactic Congress debated for 3 days, with factions forming around different positions. Some wanted immediate military action against Earth. Others argued for cautious engagement. A few suggested simply avoiding human space entirely and declaring their solar system off limits. In the end, pragmatism won over principle. The Valdren Empire, facing potential economic and military collapse from their catastrophic losses, agreed to Director Chen's terms. They transmitted technical data on faster-than-light travel, power generation, and defensive systems. They provided star charts showing the locations of major civilizations. Most importantly, they signed a formal peace treaty recognizing Earth as a sovereign world with full rights to their solar system and any unclaimed systems they chose to expand to. The Galactic Congress, by a narrow vote, officially recognized humanity as a spacefaring civilization with full membership rights and protections. However, they also passed what became known as the Human Protocols, a set of guidelines for interacting with Earth that essentially treated humanity as a dangerous but potentially valuable member of the galactic community. On Earth, Director Chen addressed a joint session of the newly reformed global government. The old national boundaries had not disappeared, but they had become less relevant as humanity united under common purpose. She spoke of the victory, the peace treaty, and the new era of human expansion into space. But she also warned of challenges ahead. We won this battle through surprise and desperation, Chen told the assembled leaders. We will not have that advantage again. Every species in the galaxy now knows humanity is dangerous. Some will respect that. Others will see us as a threat to be eliminated at the first opportunity. We must be ready for both scenarios. Dr. Rebecca Torres stood at the back of the chamber, knowing that her extinction protocol remained in secure storage, a weapon ready to be deployed if humanity ever again faced existential threat. Dr. Foster sat nearby, already planning the first diplomatic missions to other worlds, hoping to build bridges instead of burning them, and in orbit above Earth, the first human-built starship prepared for its maiden voyage. The vessel was a hybrid of human and Valdren technology, crewed by volunteers ready to explore the galaxy that had tried to destroy their world. They called the ship Defiance, a name that summed up humanity's message to the cosmos. Commander Thexavol, stripped of his rank and exiled from the Valdren military, watched from a distant observation post as the human vessel engaged its faster-than-light drive and vanished into the depths of space. He had been right in his final report to the High Command. Humanity was not prey defending itself. They were predators who had been disturbed while hunting each other. The galaxy had learned a harsh lesson. Never attack a species whose primary skill is warfare, whose defining characteristic is adaptability, and whose survival instinct knows no ethical boundaries. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, not as primitive supplicants begging for acceptance, but as a force of nature that rewrote the rules through sheer determination and ruthless efficiency. In the decades that followed, some species would become humanity's allies, recognizing the value of friendship with such capable survivors. Others would maintain cautious distance, unwilling to risk provoking the species that had turned one of the galaxy's great empires into a cautionary tale. And a few would continue plotting humanity's downfall, convinced that such dangerous beings could not be allowed to thrive. But regardless of how other species viewed them, humanity had proven one undeniable truth. They were no longer earthbound victims waiting to be conquered. They were survivors who had fought their way into the stars, and they were staying. The galaxy had begged for mercy from Earth's brutal counterattack, and Earth had shown them exactly enough mercy to ensure the lesson was learned but never forgotten. The age of humanity had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.